What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be building my first cribbage board. Super excited about that. It has a super awesome design. Going to be using the laser and the CNC router to get the job done. So my first step on this was to get the boards flat. The boards that I was using had some twist in them, and you guys can check out this video here about how I set up my planer sled to get it so that the boards are perfectly flat. This is two boards. So now that that is done, I'm going to use my joiner jig on the table saw to rip one straight edge on each of these. Then I will get them cut to width and get them glued up. So the joiner sled worked out well again. It's really meant for 1-inch stock, and this was around 1.5, but if you just bought bigger clamps off Amazon and attached them in between the smaller clamps, you'd solve that issue. And I need to get on that, as well as getting a new table saw, because this thing bogs down all the time. So I just got everything ripped down at the table saw, and I cut everything at the miter saw. I left everything a little bit long, so I cut each piece at 22 inches. The final dimensions of this board are going to be 20 inches long by 12 inches wide, so that'll give me a little room on the laser and the CNC to be able to come back and edge it all up and get it to the exact dimensions. So I'm just going to use a little glue, a couple clamps, some cawls up top to hold everything even, and I'm going to let it sit overnight. Alright, y'all, so I let the board sit in the clamps overnight. Came out this morning, took it out, sanded it using 60 grit, 120, 220, then threw a little water on here, raised the grain, and then sanded it at 220 again, and it's looking really nice. So I used my planer sled, which I talked about in my last video, and my joiner sled for my table saw to get this glue up looking the way it does now. So if you guys don't have a full-size joiner and you're looking to make some solid panel glue ups, go check those videos out and make those jigs because they're super easy. But if you have a full-size joiner, it's probably a little easier for you to achieve this result. So I'm going to take this to the laser. I'm going to use the Lightburn software to get it done. I think I'm going to put a little slide in the bottom of the board, you know, to hold like a stack of cards and the actual cribbage pegs, but I haven't decided on that yet. But because I'm using the laser and the CNC in combination with each other, I cut everything a little bit longer and wider than it needs to be so that I can laser the outline and zero the CNC router perfectly to cut out the exact 12 by 20 dimension that I want. So I'm going to take it to the laser, we'll go over some of the settings, and we'll run it. So per usual, I'm using Lightburn software to run my JTech 4-watt laser. Now in my cut software, I create the whole file, I'll save it as an SVG, and I put that border around. You see the border around the football field. That's 12 by 20, that way I know everything is going to be referenced correctly when I have to drill out the holes. Now I'm just going to go over the settings here just so you guys can see them in case you're running a laser and you want to know what are some good settings to run on Pine. Now you see blue and black lines on the screen, and on the little cut taskbar on the right there you can see that the black lines are for cut and the blue lines are for scan. So the blue lines will be shaded and the black lines will just laser a straight line on there. So these are all the settings. They work pretty good. If you guys have any questions about them, please leave a comment and I will try to answer it if I can. Still pretty new to the laser, but I've had a decent amount of success with it so far and it's been a blast to use. So this one turned out really nice in the end, and I'm pretty happy with how the JTech performed, and Lightburn software has been awesome so far. So the JTech laser is pretty awesome, but just so y'all don't get it twisted, this thing takes forever to laser things. This design took a couple hours to laser, so don't think that you're going to be out here doing production run work with a 4-watt laser. It just ain't going to happen. All right, y'all, so the laser finished up its job and this thing is looking outstanding. So anytime I'm doing a project where I'm gonna use the laser and regular router bits on the same piece, I always just laser out a frame. So this is the 12 by 20 frame. That way in my cut software and in Lightburn, they both have the 1220 same work area. So now I can take this off after it's done lasering, and when I put it back on, I just have to reference that corner. So I'll start with a V-bit to get my X and Y 0, and then I'll swap it out for whatever bit I need and zero it with the touch probe, and it's good to go, and it's pretty stinking accurate. So I'm going to use the painter's tape method on this, throw a couple pieces on the back, a couple on my wasteboard to secure this down, and we'll get all of the peg holes routed out on here. And if you don't have a CNC router, they do make a bunch of templates for cribbage boards that you can buy. I know I saw some on, I think Rockler had some, Woodcraft might have had some. I didn't really know anything about cribbage. I played a long time, like one time, a long time ago. So I had to do a bunch of research, and I saw that they make templates that you can use and either use a hand drill or a drill press. So that's another option if you guys are looking to build a cribbage board. But let's get these things routed out. So this is just how I like to do it on the wasteboard. Again, this is the same CA glue that I use for the planer sled. I use this stuff all the time. It's outstanding. So throw a few drops. That was like 12 drops. You don't even need that much. Then I take the accelerator and spray it on the tape that I put on the workpiece. And then I drop it down. And that's it. Too easy. So now I'm going to get the Z on here and drill the holes. So to get this thing zeroed to the design that's already lasered on this board, I'm just going to use a V-bit. This specifically is the 45624K by Tools Today. It's a 60-degree V-groove. It's a sweet bit. And I'm just going to throw this in the collet and just hand tighten it, because there's no reason to crank it all the way down. I'm just going to take it right out. And then I'm going to jog it over so the tip of the V-bit is in line with that corner. It's right there on the corner. So now I'm going to go into carbide motion and click zero all, so it'll zero everything off, and then I will swap that V-bit out for the 1/8 inch bit that I need to cut out the holes, and I will zero the Z height and carve it out. So I'm going to load up the 1/8 inch downcut bit. This is a Amana tool Spectra bit from Tools Today. This is a part of the starter set that I have on Tools Today's website, so I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to check that out if you're looking for some quality bits. Now I'm just going to use this touch probe to zero the Z. And get it pretty close to the probe. Then I'll probe the Z height. That's all there is to it. Now the CNC knows where the work surface is. Just a note on toolpath creation, when I was using Carbide Create, in order to drill out a hole, I would have to make it slightly larger than the diameter that I wanted to drill out. So if it was 1/8 of an inch, it would have to be slightly larger. But in Vectric, VCarve Pro, or Aspire, an 1/8 of an inch hole will drill with an 1/8 of an inch bit. Most of the time I'll cut out my workpiece using the CNC, but this stock was a little bit too thick. So I just use those lasered outlines as a reference and cut the board to its final dimensions using the table saw. Okay guys, so I've been experimenting with a sliding dovetail going through the board in order to hold a deck of cards and the cribbage pegs. So this is kind of what I'm going with here. So it's a 30-degree angle on each side. I just cut it on the table saw. So now I'm gonna match it here. I'm gonna leave, there's still gonna be about a quarter of an inch reveal. And the idea is that this will slide and go all the way through here. So when you need your cards or your pegs, you'll slide this out and they'll be here. So that's the idea. I hope it works so that I don't mess this up, but I think I figured it out. I've been sitting here thinking with the camera off for probably 30 minutes trying to figure this out. So that's what I'm gonna do. I think it'll work. Let's hope so anyway. And I'm just marking these so that I can reference them when they're together, because I am I can't even talk. I'm just gonna trace the male end onto this part and then just walk the table saw lines right up to it. So go ahead and get those lined up there. I'm just going to trace that, trace it there, and trace it up top. Let me do a little color in here so it's easier for y'all to see. Get it to focus in here. Alright, so this is the part here of the dovetail that is going to cut all the way through the board. All the way through. I'm scared, but here we go. I've got the table saw at 30 degrees, which when you zero from your table using one of these things, it'll read 60 degrees on here, because that's how math works. So I'm gonna sneak up on my line, and once I rip this height is already, the height of this blade is already set to the exact height of this. That's when I cut it, it just barely went through, and I actually like just ripped off the edge. So this should be the exact height already. I haven't touched it since I cut this. I'm gonna run it all the way through, and then once I run it all the way through, I'm gonna flip this board around and cut it from the other side to get the other groove. So what I did is, with a 30-degree angle, I cut a bunch of relief cuts in here. So I had a bunch of small little kerf marks, and then I just went in with a good old trusty chisel, cleaned it all out, sanded it down a little bit, and I did have to plane this down just a touch because my depth was slightly off. But now the cribbage board is here. And this piece fits right in there. I gotta cut it so that it's flush. Is it perfect? No. Is it awesome? Yes. So I'm gonna cut this to its final length. I'm gonna make a quick CNC file to just pocket out a little area here for a deck of cards and some pegs. And then I'm just gonna get this thing cleaned up and it's gonna be a wrap. So almost done. I chose a satin lacquer finish for this project. Goes on easy, dries quick, really can't beat it. Alright y'all, so after 3 or 4 coats of finish, this cribbage board is done. Sliding dovetail for a little storage here for pegs and a deck of cards. Good to go. That's it. Pretty fun project. I learned a lot, especially with the sliding dovetail on this, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and be on the lookout for the next video. Got a couple builds coming up. As you can see, I got cedar and just stuff all over the place. I got a project dealing with all of this coming very, very soon. So thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you on the next video. See ya.